Hello. How are you? Where are you right now?
I'm actually in Alameda. I just moved over here yesterday to stay at my sister's house.
Amazing.
It's a little bit more spacious, and after not being with my niece and nephew for 2 weeks, I was like, I'm fine, they're fine. It's time to come together.
Well, welcome for the folks who are tuning in now. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to Manny's Super Civic Cyber Conversations. We are continuing to do our work and live our mission of civically engaging the community in this time of need. And so we're doing these lightning round 20, 30-minute civic conversations with folks from all aspects of life. And today we are joined by the inimitable, incredible Palak Sheth, who, is it Sheth? Sheth.
It's shade, actually, but yeah.
Okay. Palak has been involved in a bunch of events at Manny's, and you have your hands in so many things. And we're going to talk today about how to continue to organize using digital tools, even though we all have to be in our homes. So welcome, Palak.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say, like, I'm so impressed with how quickly you guys hustled to put the cyber civic conversations together. I think that, like, when you first reached out about this specific topic, the best example of how people are like using online tools to organize was frankly Manny's. And so I'm just really thankful that you guys are doing what you're doing and that you invited me to be part of it.
Of course. So first, I think it would be good if we, because I know you do a lot of things and you wear a lot of hats. Can you talk about kind of like the different organizations that you're a part of and kind of all the different things that you do, so we get a sense of who we're talking to?
Sure. So during the day, I work at a tech company doing public policy work. But outside of that, I have two main hats that I think I wear, which is one, I founded this organization, this social political women's organization called Post March Salon. We came out of the first Women's March in 2017. And we basically realized that there wasn't a way for women that for the first time in their lives after Trump was elected, all of a sudden felt like their civil liberties were getting threatened. These are not people that are, your day-to-day activists. They're people that are newer activists. And so what I thought about then was, well, from my experience organizing, the way to keep it going and have it sustainable in the long term is for it to be somewhat social and consistent.
Yeah.
And so we call it PMS for short. We meet at the same time of the month every month. We invite a speaker to come talk to us and to educate us on a specific issue, whether it's on the local level or the national level, and then we take some sort of action.
Nice.
So that's something that, like, we're now over 3 years in, and we have 2 different chapters. And it's funny because we've always talked about how it's a really easy concept that people could join from anywhere, but because these salons are intimate and in people's homes, we've never leveraged any online tool until now.
So what tool how has that changed? What tool are you using now?
Yeah, so we were planning, so we have a chapter in Chicago, we have a chapter here in the Bay Area, and we were planning on having a salon around the census, because obviously the census is happening right now. People should have received invitations to take their census by mail, but you actually do it. It's the first digitally native census, or digitally first. So we brought in a woman that works, Libby Reeder, who works with SF Counts, which is San Francisco's response to make sure that we are counting people completely and inclusively. And she basically spoke to us about all of the, the things that we know, which is like the implications of being counted, the data that comes out of the census, and how it enables us to get the representation that we want, which right now feels like so clear as to how important it is.
Yeah.
The other hat that I didn't mention is the American Constitution Society. So that's a national organization. It's headquartered in DC. It's the largest progressive legal network. I'm the co-chair for the Bay Area chapter. We put on tons of events at Manny's. You guys are a perfect space for us. And they've actually, on the national level, they've been really good about having webinars and calls, because they have this vast network of like legal scholars and experts. And so they from time to time do a lot of that, and are just ramping that up in this current environment where there's a lot of confusion, frankly, around policies and what's going to happen.
Okay, so you're part of the American Constitution Society. Your day job is public policy for a tech company, and you founded this really awesome organization called Post March Salon. So we're living in very strange, unprecedented times. You and I were talking in our little pre-call moment about, even when we're allowed to hug each other again, which I have to say, I just can't wait to give someone a hug. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
A hug. I'm gonna keep that hug. I miss it. Like I felt it on the way. It was just in the park, and I came back, and I'm like, I want a hug. Like I need a hug. I want to give a hug. Like I need a hug, basically.
Yeah.
You can't get a hug. So fuck that. I'm so annoyed at it. Ugh. Okay, that was my rant. But you were saying, rightfully so, like there may be like a much longer lag before we feel comfortable to like really gather in like large crowds, rallies, protests, marches, big movements and gatherings. And do you think that that's going to happen, and that fear? And two, how do you think that affects organizing in the 2020 election?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this a lot. I think when they first put shelter in place and they gave us this date, April 7th, it was far enough out that was uncomfortable. None of us spend that much time by ourselves in our own apartments or homes. But at the same time, it didn't feel like we needed to think about the entire year necessarily. And now what I'm starting to realize, as we learn, as we see the data, as I learn about previous pandemics and that they do come in waves, I frankly don't think that we should be operating under the mentality that not even that government, but that we as society are going to feel comfortable coming together by the hundreds in crammed rooms to watch debates or, as you mentioned, to attend, like to hear people speak. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. And the framework that I've been working under is really like, what can I do to foster some semblance of normalcy in this environment? And to me, that just looks like, the people that I were going to meet on a weekly basis, whether it's that you take or coming to Manny's, are who I'm going to try to meet with on a weekly basis.
We didn't even mention your dance instructor life. That's a whole.
Yeah. I'm going to be, yes, I teach a Bollywood dance fitness class in San Francisco, and I'm going to be teaching this Wednesday. I can put my information wherever if people want to join. But it's funny, we build these communities with people, whether it's our interests or our workouts or whatever we're into, and maintaining that is really important. And I think that the silver lining in here is that we live in an era where we do have tech and accessible tech, right? We all have a phone. Many of us have laptops, if not some other kind of like desktop. There are options about which one you want to use many of them are free. I mentioned with PMS, we have monthly salons. Decided, I don't think that I said this, but we decided to finally host it virtually. So we had Libby speak, we had a speaker, we had roughly the same number of people on the online call that we have in person at our events. And it was actually it was really humanizing, frankly, to see everybody at home in their whatever they're wearing, talking through their struggle. I'm like trying to come up with a good lighting situation here, but most of the time we're all just kind of scrambling to figure out what this new normal looks like. Your earlier point though about these larger scale events, we can't stop. I want to take one step back and just mention, it's actually to restate the importance of mobilizing right now. I think that I don't want to politicize this moment. But I do think that we're seeing, for those out there that are on the fringe about how politics affects them, I think that we're seeing it punctuated hugely right now, where we have a president, frankly, that had an opportunity to be a leader, to be a wartime leader, to fend off any sort of like imminent existential threat. We had data out there, we had science, we had
Right.
experts, and he didn't do that. And on the other hand, we have San Francisco's mayor, we have Governor Newsom, we have other governors that are coming out from, I want to call out Michigan is doing, they're seeing a crazy spike, but I think Governor Whitmer is doing a great job, obviously Governor Cuomo. And we're just seeing how it is more important than ever to elect capable,
Right.
intelligent people that have good judgment.
Right, right. In a way, the crisis is teaching us about the importance of paying attention to who's in office, because they can they are making decisions right now that affect so deeply the way we live. Obviously, it doesn't take the place of full organizing. It's funny. My philosophy well, because we've done so many events together and we've talked so much. And I just really believe that our politics should be experienced in person as much as possible. And I had all these plans for, the fall, and I'm not saying we're not going to do them, but I wanted to do like huge presidential debate watch parties and large watch events for the convention. I wanted to do a 10,000 person event with the nominee. I was scouting out locations. I've already been talking about closing down like a block of Valencia for election night. And it is because I think we do need to gather in person around these events. And it's so, I don't want to reframe that thinking. You will have to drag me kicking and screaming to say, we're not doing that. But I am starting to be a little worried about it, because I'm still operating under the okay, if it's not April 7th, it's April 30th. And it's going to be a month of people kind of being a little bit nervous, and then by Pride it'll be
the day will come. I mean, the truth is, Manny, the day will come, right, where we will be like what we used to be before. It's just, I don't think that we know when that is, and I think in the meantime we just can't stop the work. Yes. I don't know if you caught last Saturday night on Instagram Live, DJ Nice. And
we're like all the people were joining the DJ set, and there were like 100,000 people. Yeah,
there were like over 100,000 people, including Biden, Bernie, Kamala, et cetera, et cetera. So that was awesome. That was a moment where I was like, I think he was trying to make it club quarantine because he's on the East Coast.
Yeah.
But all of us out here, I was cooking dinner with my windows open.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
But what I will say, later in the week, he actually partnered with Michelle Obama's organization, When We All Vote. Mm-hmm. And as he was DJing, volunteers were texting eligible voters to make sure that they're registered. And I think we're actually seeing some people get really creative. Jane Fonda had those Friday fire drills fighting for climate change, where she was in DC and she would organize these rallies, and she was getting thrown into jail. I saw that just this past week she organized her first virtual fire drill, and they're sending all these materials of how to take action on climate change, which really is also another imminent threat that we are facing.
Right.
So those are, not to mention, this was another one that was, I had never gotten this before. I don't know if you have. I had a call from an unknown number. I almost never pick them up. I picked it up because now that we're working from home, people are kind of calling and whatever. So I picked it up, and it was actually Nancy Pelosi and her chief of staff.
Yeah, the conference call that Dan organized with everyone.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for that. Did you?
No, I didn't know how they got my number, or
probably because we're registered San Franciscans, but I thought it was actually really well run. She had invited almost a panel of city heads.
Grant Colfax, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But they also did polling, which I thought was interesting, right?
Cool.
Yeah, so that's another tool I just looked up, and on a lot of these conference call services, they let you do polling. And the example there was, where the chief of staff would kind of ask this prompt question, and you would just put in yes or no. So you would dial 1 for yes or no. So I remember one of the questions is can you work from home? Is your employer one that allows you to, and you actually can get work done from home? And so at the end of each segment, he would actually read out the responses. 70% of you said yes or something. And I thought that was really interesting and nuanced.
So let's go. So just a question or two on the meat of the topic. And so organizing digitally, online, you said in our pre-call that there's some cool stuff that you're thinking about and working on locally. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, so a couple things. I think for anyone that's kind of in the world of organizing and activism, I think it's really hard right now to stay focused
Yeah.
on what the issues are that you're worried about when we're all trying to help our healthcare workers get the resources. We're all seeing the same news and the same shortages, somewhat in bewilderment that because we live in the US and it's just hard to understand why we're here. So I've actually seen, like a Slack channel that's nationwide for PPE coordination. And it's basically teams coming in and talking about, and it's, I think Slack is a great service for some. I think it can be useful, but it's a bunch of different threads. And it's allowing people to talk about when they do have equipment and who needs it. And they're kind of like creating this makeshift database.
Wow.
Um, and I think it's actually important, especially when there are health administrations and there's bureaucracy and red tape and you just really need
Yeah,
resources.
yeah, yeah.
For us here at, with PMS and also with ACS has actually on the national level been really great about coordinating one like page on their website for all of the different, I mean, incredible book um, articles that are being written by members, but also calls, and they're keeping the recordings of their calls so you can join and listen to it later. But fascinating stuff, like in this era of COVID, how are we combating things like domestic violence and the spike there? How are we thinking about being compassionate when we want to, and releasing prisoners that are, vulnerable to COVID?
Right.
So the American Constitution Society has been doing a lot on that.
And also, one of the running themes in these conversations has been that with crisis also comes opportunity. And we had a great call with Jeff Kaczynski, who's running the city's coordinated effort to house people who need housing right now. And because it's a crisis, they are looking at and doing things that they would not have done otherwise, and it could potentially result in thousands and thousands of people getting housing that wouldn't have otherwise gotten it. Maybe even all of our unhoused people, all 8 or 9,000 of them, could get housing out of this. You look at the environment and some things that are happening with the environment because we're all slowing down. And if you were giving advice to anyone that was working in a specific issue advocacy field that was not necessarily connected to public health, or at least to epidemiology, how would you advise them to use this opportunity to actually continue their advocacy? How could you turn lemons and make lemonade out of it from an activist standpoint?
I think that's a great question. And it's the right question. I was thinking about how sometimes, people are saying social distance, but as we know, we're really just physically distant. And actually, sometimes that physical distance is what inhibits people from attending something or learning about something.
Right.
And now that we're actually reaching people at where they are, it's on us as organizers to make it worth their while to listen to, right? There was a Fair Fight fundraiser with Fair Fight is Stacey Abrams' organization. It's super important, and now more than ever, to make sure that we're making voting more accessible and protecting that. And she did a fundraiser, I think it was today actually, I didn't join, but she did a fundraiser with the former acting AG, Sally Yates. Yeah. And what I thought was interesting is I think it's really hard to think about fundraising right now, specifically. A lot of our nonprofits need to, though, right? And they need to think about their annual galas. That was what made them their money for their operating budget.
Right.
And I'm thinking about that too. And, she had a fundraiser today, and the way that they did it is you could access the talk to learn about them for like $25. But then they had different rates, and the different rates got you different access, including things like what you would get in a real life fundraiser. So a speaking opportunity, or asking a live question, or being mentioned, et cetera, et cetera. A friend actually that lives in the Bay Area started this company called Votivate. And there's like a B2C version of it, but the B2B version is actually, it's integrated broadcasting of events. And it is for the thing that you were talking about. It's actually exactly for like 10,000 plus people, or maybe even smaller than that in some cases, but I think it can get to over 50,000. having a customized platform that would be like natively located, that gets people to hear about what it is that you're talking about. And then you can do a fundraiser within that platform where you're all raising paddles
Right.
as, you know, you're talking about a specific issue.
Right. Right.
I think that I myself am thinking about how a lot of the things that I'm interested in, including with PMS, people always tell me, oh, I wish I could make it. I wish I could make it. And now it's like, well, you kind of can. You can
Yeah.
make it, you know?
Yeah. There's a way to actually, if I'm being honest, I think if we look at the numbers, more people are tuning into Manny's events and conversations now than they were before, because it takes a lot of work to build a live event. And even though we were doing them every night, some had a couple hundred, some had 20, 30, and, it's easier for people to join in. I think we might actually do the same thing with Stacey Abrams. I'm talking with her team about doing like this.
Yeah.
Were you able to join? Did it work?
I didn't join today. Like I said, I came over to my sister's to hang out with my niece and nephew. So I took a break.
Now's the time for questions. If folks have questions for Palak, now's the time to ask them, or write them in the chat box or the Q&A box, or maybe she just answered all your questions and she's just so brilliant and smart. How do you
what were you gonna say?
I was going to ask about Joe Biden.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Just like how you think he's going to use, how he's going to use, like what his campaign strategy should be to use online tools. I mean,
yeah, I think, okay, well, before I say anything about Joe Biden, which, I'll wait for people to ask questions, but I did want to also just mention one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is the rise in like xenophobia against Asian Americans. And I've seen I think it's the Chinese for Affirmative Action and another group actually like launched a website to collect all of the reports of any anti-APA type like sentiment out there. I think that, for those of us that are here in the Bay Area, like data is so important, and collecting that information is important. So for anyone that's listening, if you're listening, I did write down the website because I do think that there is a rise. I think Trump was horrible in the first couple of weeks when he was calling it the Chinese flu. I think people are running rampant with that. I thought San Francisco's response about and Scott Wiener's response about supporting our Chinatown was really great and exactly what we want informed people to think. So www.a3pcon.org/stop the hate is where you can like go and report that if you see it online.
Okay. One question is from Asha. Can you provide a link to the Slack PPE?
Yes, I can provide a link to the Slack PE.
If you have it accessible, you can send it, you can just text it to the chat box.
Okay, let me find it and then do that. I will do that.
And I will stall by thinking about who would be a good female vice president for Joe Biden.
That's a better question. Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not punting on the Biden question, frankly. I think both Biden and Bernie I think our biggest issue right now as Democrats is knowing that voting by mail is really challenging, and it's going to lead to less people voting unless we, frankly, all of us do a ton of pushing to get people to vote in advance by mail. The part two there though is counting is going to be horrible, especially if it's a short if it's a really narrow voting margin.
Right. I think it has to be a younger woman, but meaning like not someone who's in the same exact age bracket as him, because I think people are worried about his own health, and it has to be someone that he gets along with. So I just wonder, like, who? I don't know. I think.
So are you saying that you think Biden is the nominee? Like you think he's the?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first assumption.
You think it's you think Bernie has a shot?
No, I mean I don't think the numbers are there, but no. I also, I don't think the numbers are there.
It happened, but also like I asked David Plouffe, and David Plouffe said it's like impossible, and I kind of trust.
Yeah, that's what my gut would be too.
You feel like probably knows the number side of it. I mean, barring some like something extreme, um, but I actually think the pandemic helps Joe Biden because it's already so unsettling, and I think he's so safe and unknowable, and anyone that was like a little bit on the fence because of Bernie's policies or mannerisms seemed a little extreme. I think right now I feel like everyone's coping, and Joe Biden almost he's just a much more safe, moderate candidate. Yeah, why don't we close on just your thoughts on the vice presidency for Biden, and we'll
Yeah.
close it out.
So I think we want good people, and I think now for the first time, this generation of voters, all of us are living through our own version of a war, right? Like this is, I
Yeah.
hate the equation, but I also think that it's
Well, and also you and I have been living through. Our generation has lived through the longest war in American history, which is still ongoing.
yeah, yeah, that's
We've been
also,
in war since 9/11.
no, we have. And we've been in a recession before. And so we've seen both the economic, but I think the health, the fact that it touches everyone equally, that there really is no difference between someone who thinks differently on a specific issue,
Right.
feels a little different. And so in that space, I think we need the smartest, brightest, kindest people.
Yeah.
I really do. And so I think experience matters sometimes, but frankly, experience also matters in every place in government. So I don't want to remove someone like Kamala Harris or even Elizabeth Warren from the Senate. I think they need to stay where they are, and I think they need to do the great work that they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that there are some interesting governors. I think Stacey Abrams would be a fantastic nominee. She's my number one.
Yeah.
But I'm also looking at other women that are governors, like Governor Whitmer from Michigan. I think that she's proving herself to be a strong leader. We'll see how things turn, but
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Palak. Before folks go, I just want to bring your attention to a couple links in the chat box. There's, of course, the census link up there. There's post-March Salon. Check out PMS. And also, please click on the joinit.org/Manny's link. My amazing operator, Sam, has put it back in there. Manny's is closed, and we need your help. We really do. We're asking everyone that's joined these calls to please become a sponsor of Manny's. It's $36 a month. And that is the money that is keeping us afloat right now. And so we want to keep doing this work for the community. We think it's important, but in order for us to do it, we need you. And I need you to consider joining us as a sponsor and helping us make it through this time. So there's a link in there. It's joinit.org/o/Manny's. If you liked today's conversation or just want to talk about Manny stuff, you can tag us at Welcome to Manny's. And thank you to Sam for being the operator, and to Ram and Jupiter as well for being such awesome members of the team, and Palak for being such an incredible activist, ingenue, so multifaceted, and a good friend to me. So thank you for being there for me throughout this whole journey. I really appreciate it.
thank you so much, Manny. And I just want to stress that I'm so happy and proud to be a sponsor of Manny's. I think that I came up with PMS about the same time that you started thinking about Manny's, and bringing people together over these types of issues is so impactful. So I encourage everybody out there to make a contribution, either one time, but really you should feel good about the ongoing contribution to Manny's. He has taken it from what initially could be to really as a place for people that want to learn and make a difference and meet people in intimate spaces that also make those differences. So thank you.
Thanks, Palak. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Saturday night. Enjoy it. Bye.
Bye.